Welcome back to The Real Scoop. I'm Jane Neilson, your host and realtor at Pinnacle Residential Properties. I am here to give you the latest scoop on Wellesley real estate. This week, I am pleased to welcome back Elaine Bannigan, broker and owner of Pinnacle Residential Properties. Welcome, Elaine.
Thank you, Jane. It's always nice to be here with you.
Our favorite time of year.
Right.
Elaine is here to share some important information from the 2015 annual Pinnacle report. But first, here are the real estate numbers. For the 2 weeks ending February 29th, 5 homes came on the market and 10 sold. There are 85 homes remaining for sale. This period includes school vacation week, and you may recall we had some very cold weather President's Day weekend. Since then, the spring market feels like it has begun in earnest. So now on to the Pinnacle report. Elaine, in the Pinnacle report, we are covering the fourth quarter, but giving you our readers a synopsis for the entire year.
Correct.
And we found some interesting things. So it would probably be good to catch up on the year in its entirety.
Okay.
So a year ago, we were all buried under many feet of snow dealing with ice dams. So last year, we found that the inventory got off to a very late start in the spring.
It did. And when it finally took off, which was really not until well into the second quarter. Mm-hmm. It was May when things really started. You know, we had to dig out from ice dams and mounds of snow. So
and people had damage too. That some of them had some roof repairs and inside their homes doing repairs. So it definitely impacted us, people listing their homes. And
it did.
The inventory.
And there's a liability, too, that people have to be mindful of when
Mm-hmm.
your walkways, and for those of you who are thinking of listing while the weather's still a little iffy, or have their house on the market right now, keeping those walkways clear, clean, sanded, etc. is so important, because of not only don't you want anybody to be hurt, but you have a liability if someone is. So, so after a slow Q1, and it wasn't until end of Q2, as you know, because you were in the thick of all that with me. Mm-hmm. Q2, certainly things became brisk. As we entered Q3, things started slowing, though, and we had a fairly lackluster Q3. Now, as you know, Jane, there's a 60-day lag on average from the time someone says, I'll take that house, and the time they close. Mm-hmm. So when we say sales were down in Q4, as we're saying in our Pinnacle report, it's really illustrative of a lackluster Q3. Closings were down.
Right, for
because
the fourth
we also
quarter.
examined pendings. Mm-hmm. And pendings in Q4 were actually up.
Right.
So Q3 was slow. It rallied in November, really, December. And it left many of us saying, not only regionally, but nationally, that real estate's becoming less seasonal.
Definitely.
It only gets impacted with, these major storms, but buyers are buying right through November, December, and many things went pending that are closing.
And the high end too, we noticed a lot of luxury properties that have been sitting were actually going under agreement in the fourth quarter with closings that have occurred now, already in the first quarter of 2016.
Yes, and that's so true when we look at the high end for Wellesley, and it's specific to Wellesley, because this was not the case statewide, and it wasn't the case in towns adjacent to us, but Wellesley's over $3 million sales dropped 40% last year, closed sales.
Which sounds like a shockingly high number, but it's not the whole story.
No, it's not the whole story, because they were really up in terms of pending sales that last quarter, and those will be, again, when those close Q1 2016, some of them have, some of them will close in the next couple of weeks. Then we'll see that little bit of a rebound. The high end tends to be, that demand for high end tends to be a lot more elastic than does the under $1 million, the other extreme of the price band. That's a pretty steady demand.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, people have to be feeling flush, very confident. Those high-end sales tend to be as what we call discretionary moves.
Right.
People that don't have to trade up can stay where they are. It's only when they're really feeling confident, job secure, et cetera.
The stock market can have an
The
impact.
stock market has an impact, definitely.
Right.
Although sometimes I find this to be the case. Over the long haul, more people will have faith in real estate, in this real tangible asset, than they will in the stock market. I happen to be one of them.
Right, right. And I'm working with a buyer right now who is an investor that's looking for, a long-term. They're thinking that real estate's a good bet long-term.
Long-term it is.
Just, like he's
It'll
had success.
never be worth nothing.
Right, it'll never be worth nothing. That's true. So in general, the news was pretty good. If anything, it was frustrating for buyers at the entry level because there just wasn't a lot of inventory.
I would say the following. It wasn't as bad as it was if we have any people that have read reports over the years, and believe it or not, we do. I have people that'll show me all the reports that I've ever written.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But in Q1 2014, we were down to as few as 3 houses on the market priced under $1 million. And that was crazy. I mean, there was a frenetic activity for that. As supply came on later that year, that started to swell, and we noted that some of those under agreements in 2014 and those closed sales were really high.
Right.
And that, again, is, directly because of the lack of supply. And things settled down. I don't mean down significantly, but there weren't bidding wars, bidding way over asking.
Right, like it was in 2014.
2014,
Because I remember hearing about condos in Cambridge going 100,000 over asking, and buyers waiving their right, the opportunity to look at condo docs and have an inspection, which, we would always tell our buyers, you're better off without it. You don't ever want to waive your right to an inspection in a frenzy.
You really do. In fact, it's a policy of ours, of Pinnacle's, that, you definitely want to have it inspected so you know what you're going into. And we are very uncomfortable if you instruct a Pinnacle broker that you want to waive your inspection. You'll get a letter from that Pinnacle broker saying we want to memorialize that we advise you not to. As soon as you get that in writing from us, you generally change your mind and you, okay, my agent seriously wants me to have an inspection.
Right.
So, high-end sales, when they've leveled off, the supply is leveled off to roughly 20, 22 houses, between 18 and 22 for routinely by mid-2014 and through 2015. That was the supply on average at any given point. That remained thus throughout 2015, and so what we saw were number of transactions remained fairly constant, and prices remained fairly constant.
I think 2014, we've all agreed that we saw the recovery from the recession.
Definitely, yes.
And it seems like 2015, well, you can tell us.
Well, just a normalization in a lot of things.
And the number of sales, total sales, was pretty consistent to 2014, and prices were definitely back, but it'll be interesting to see what happens this year.
And we did have in 2015 the trade-up market really starting in earnest. I mean, people that were in houses under $1 million were looking to trade up to that next level between 1 and 1.5. So that little area, those sales really jumped. 1.5 to 2, that increased a little bit. And stayed the same up until, again, over 3, and then that real luxury tier, people weren't going there. But again, it's picked up.
It has picked up.
Yeah, we have nothing but good indicators, I think, for 2016, which is a very positive thing.
So Pinnacle had 2 listings last week.
Out of the 5 that sold?
Out of the 5 that sold. And both had more than one offer.
It's true.
One was in in the 600,000 price range, and one was just a hair over $1 million. So that was It was nice to see buyers are back out. And so tell us what's ahead. We love you to look into your crystal ball that you keep on your desk.
Well, it's funny because I do have a crystal ball. Jane's not kidding. I saw one once in a gift shop in Needham, and I thought, oh, this will be great, because every time someone asks me what's ahead, I can say, feel free to gaze, because
that's all we're going to do.
That's right. But I would say that there are a lot of indicators, and I have the following crystal ball that when I got into the business, I would have not imagined I would have at my disposal. And that crystal ball is the number of web searches that we can see on
that number of hits on our website. On
how many people are Googling real estate searches, and it's really a crystal ball, because I remember in August of 2008 that I noted real estate searches had plummeted. In fact, they plummeted. I went to Vin, who is my business partner, Vin Spoto.
And your husband.
And my husband, yes, my partner in all things, and said, is there something wrong with the reporting here? Because real estate searches have really dropped like a rock. And he said, no, that's right, I've noted it. And then September 18th was the first big correction in the stock market.
Right.
And real estate, confidence was just going off a cliff. So there was a little, there was an indicator, that's for sure. Now, the opposite's the case. We're getting hits left and right.
Right.
There are a lot of people that are planning to buy. There are people that are feeling confident about trading up. Interest rates are down again.
Ridiculously down.
Ridiculously down. And there's word that they may go down further.
Wow.
And I had read a couple of reports recently that said, there will be a baseline where if they go down to a level that's so low that some banks are not going to want to lend jumbo money at that little of a return.
Right.
And that's so, but I'm delighted that people can borrow money as inexpensively as possible right now. So I think lots of people are going to be looking and are looking. So I'm feeling confident in Massachusetts, certainly. And I think from all of my perspective right now, it's going to be a very good year. Now, our supply hasn't quite caught up with, as you said, we had multiple offers on 2 listings.
Right.
And they, so there are, those buyers out there, and a faction is certainly from Asia. But as supply comes on, we'll see again that, and again, it's the supply really. 1.5 and up tends to be a tipping point, as you know, and I think I was recently quoted in the Globe on this. It's the tipping point where it's really a second trade up for most folks. They've already traded up once,
right.
Trading up again. Most folks that come into this town anyways. And there has to be a real level of confidence and a pressing need to do it. The low money can do it. The easy saleability of their existing house, all of those things matter. But at the 1.5 price point, you find buyers become a lot fussier.
Definitely.
And so I
And the
think
new
there's-
construction, because, you know, the demand for lots under $1 million, where a builder has to be, to build a house under $2 million, you were seeing the new construction prices almost routinely over 1.5, and now even pushing over $2 million in neighborhoods where we wouldn't have guessed it
Never
would
had thought.
have thought it
Yeah.
supported it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been very interesting.
Yeah, it's so true. And but as those lots rise, and you know, the demand for new over $1.5 million, that's as much as it's a surprise to we brokers. It's what the market, whatever the market will bear, is what happens.
Right, and we have noted that there's a continued zeal to buy new construction.
There is, and you know, I do know that those of us who live in older homes, you know, there's a lament to losing the smaller houses and to losing the older houses. But this new generation, and I shouldn't even say this new generation, because it's retirees as well and empty nesters, but it's what the market is demanding. They
Right.
don't want older homes the way. That's the only thing I would buy when I moved into Wellesley. Of course, not that there were a lot of, but I wanted something that was built before, you know, 1940, and I got what I wished for. But yeah, my first house was in 1906. So, but certainly, you know, empty nesters are looking for convenient one-floor living. But the young people today want new. And it's very popular to be new. Everybody wants gray paint on their walls and dark stain.
Gray
on
is the
their
new black.
Gray
Yeah.
is the new black,
Yeah.
or it's the new white in many cases. So I am still waiting for the other colors to come back, so I'm not changing anything.
You'll be back in style before you know it.
Yeah.
Well, Elaine, it's always a pleasure to discuss the Pinnacle report. I know an enormous amount of work goes into it, primarily by you with your marketing research team behind you. So thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thanks for having me, Jane. Always a pleasure to do this with you.
So let the games begin in the spring real estate market.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again for joining us at The Real Scoop. Do you know someone that you'd like to see as our guest? If you have some suggestions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email at janeneilson@pinnaclehouses.com. Thanks for joining us here at The Real Scoop.